FBI Director James Comey is set to testify on Capitol Hill.
Look, what the president asked for was loyalty to the country and loyalty to make sure that the American people have the justice system that they want.
Did the president actually obstruct justice? Well, no, because the process of investigating General Flynn is going on.
North Korea launched a salvo of ballistic missiles. Everything we're obsessed with in Washington, however validly, could all seem totally irrelevant tomorrow if some international crisis explodes.
And yes, it's time finally to put America first, and that's what I've been doing, if you haven't noticed.
The president was exactly on track, talking about infrastructure.
This is the ceremonial office of the vice president. The vice president's signing on the inside of the desk. I think the tradition is that you sign it at the end of your tenure, so I expect I'll be signing this drawer in 7.5 years.
It is time for the CMT Music Awards. I got one more silver dollar.
We have Bobby Flay on
does that
today?
remind you of an ex? I still think about you.
That's Rascal Flatts.
Steve is like, oh gosh.
I've been married 30 years.
It's a lot of territory between X.
Yeah, you don't remember any of
the first
them.
name of the person you're thinking of.
Oh, Brian.
No, that is not true. Is it really? Is it a Brian in your life?
No, I never dated a Brian.
Oh, okay.
I didn't. No.
But
did you ever date an Ainsley?
No, I didn't even go to school with an Ainsley. Did you?
She's my first.
Right.
All right, let's talk about the news of the day. You know, James Comey is going to be grilled today in front of the Senate committee, and his attorney is coming out saying he released a statement saying he feels after James Comey released his opening statements, his attorney, President Trump, is now saying we feel totally vindicated. Can we put up the statement?
Yep,
we can right here. Here's exactly what he said. The president feels completely and totally vindicated. He is eager to continue to move forward with agenda. So what's he talking about? Well, take a look at the cover of the New York Post today because it's all about the Comey show. FBI director told the president he wasn't under investigation and did that 3 times. That's what President Trump said. He said, James Comey told me 3 times I was not being personally investigated, although there were some other news reports out over the last 48 hours or so that said he would refute that. Not true. The president was right, and that's why he feels vindicated.
The other stuff was pretty accurate that it leaked out prior to through Comey surrogates, who obviously he had let those memos out. He did take notes after their meeting. They are going to be obviously front and center. He has coordinated with Mueller, who's doing the overall probe, to make sure he's not going to say things that'll mess up the investigation. What's good for President Trump is 3 times he asked for and verbally got. He goes, "There's no investigation." He said, "Yeah, there's no investigation here." I would like you to tell people that. And to me, knowing President Trump as well as you can, as not being a member of the family working for the organization, that is totally Trumpian. He's trying to say, I'm trying to get my agenda forward. Behind the scenes in Washington, it's not moving. Because of this Russian probe.
Right. And
since you're not investigating me, and the people like Paul Manafort and Carter
Page.
Carter, I can't remember this guy's last name. Carter Page and others are the problem. Michael Flynn's no longer here. Can you push this to the side, work on that, and exonerate me so I can do health care and everything else that I want to get done?
That explains why in the phone call, I think it was on the 30th of, I have the dates written down, but anyway, in one of the phone calls that he had with Comey, it was on March 30th, he said, what can we do to lift this cloud, the Russia investigation? Because he wants that cloud lifted so that Republicans can go on and do the job that they were elected to do.
He's not saying stop the investigation. Also, the headline all over the place is that the president asked Mr. Comey, are you going to be a loyal guy? Keep in mind, Mr. Comey had been appointed FBI director by Barack Obama. Barack Obama had a bunch of people who were trying to blow up Mr. Trump as he came into the presidency. Also, if you're a CEO or a leader, that's what you want your team to be. A bunch of people who are loyal to the team. And in fact, we have heard he asked many other members of the cabinet that. Corey Lewandowski, who was his former campaign manager, explained loyalty this way.
What the president asked for was loyalty to the country and loyalty to make sure that the American people have the justice system that they want. That's not unheard of. That's not uncalled for. And what the president asked for as a president-elect was to develop a rapport with the incoming FBI director. If you read the statement that the FBI director made, what he said was in his entire tenure, he had 2 conversations with Barack Obama when he was the president of the United States. One was to simply say goodbye. And in the time that President Trump has taken office, from the time he was the president-elect till the time Jim Comey was fired for not performing his job well, he had 9 separate conversations with the president in multiple meetings. The difference is this president is hands-on, wants to make sure that we have the best Justice Department available, and he made the decision as the commander-in-chief to relieve a person from duty who is no longer capable of running the FBI.
One problem with James Comey's letter that was out there. Again, he puts things out there and then backs off. He didn't say he felt pressure, but did say the president in a one-on-one interview said, I want loyalty, and I would like loyalty, and I would like you to, basically leave Mike Flynn alone. There's a problem, though, with one thing.
Right, but he explained that, right, because he said, look, Mike Flynn just got fired.
Right.
Can you see that? Right. He wasn't asking him to stop the investigation. That would have been obstruction of justice.
So what he did say that did not make sense and does not add up is if you did feel the pressure, if you did feel as though it was over the line, you tell the Attorney General. So he said, I didn't tell the Attorney General because clearly he was going to recuse himself, and the acting director was acting director. That does not add up because it was 2 weeks down the line after he had this one-on-one with the president where it turned out that a Kislyak meeting with Sessions took place where he felt compelled to recuse himself from the investigation. So that doesn't add up. Nobody had any idea that outside Senator Schumer, who wanted it, that Jeff Sessions was going to recuse himself because no revelations were exposed yet.
About the loyalty thing, we can all interpret it differently. They were the only 2 people in the room, and we're going to hear his testimony today. We'd like to hear from the president to see what he meant by loyalty. But I could have taken it as they're talking about the leakers. And, of course, the president wants loyalty. We don't want leakers. We want people within our administration to be loyal.
Right, exactly. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill yesterday, the Intel director and the NSA boss were on the hot seat, essentially, because you had Republicans and Democrats trying to get to the bottom of, did the president try to exert influence over you to get you to stop anything? And they made it very clear. They were never pressured to intervene in the Russia investigation, which throws cold water, on the reports that Donald Trump was trying to squeeze these guys to stop it. Here we've got an interchange with Admiral Mike Rogers and Dan Coats saying, look, Donald Trump didn't do anything wrong. The other voice is Senator Mark Warner of Virginia.
To the best of my recollection, I have never been directed to do anything I believe to be illegal, immoral, unethical, or inappropriate. And to the best of my recollection, during that same period of service, I do not recall ever feeling pressured to do so.
I have never been pressured. I have never felt pressure to intervene or interfere in any way and shaping intelligence in a political way.
He may not have felt pressure, but if he is even asking, to me, that is a very relevant piece of information.
And that's it. So he says he didn't feel pressure. But when it came to when them asking Coates, Rogers, who I never heard Rogers was ever asked, that wasn't even rumored. But when it came to Coates and when it came to the Deputy Attorney General, the question was, did he ever come up to you and say, hey, listen, can you tell Comey to back off here? They would not say that those conversations did not take place. Well, and in Coates' case, he says, I'll tell you behind closed doors. That was the issue. But they said, you could tell me tomorrow, you could say to me, Brian, do me a favor, come in early, and I need you to come in early and do the tease from now on. I do not feel pressure. But if someone said, did Steve pull you to the side of the stage and say, come in early and do the tease? Right. The answer would be yes, but they don't want to say yes.
Here's the thing, Mr. Coates, and I get this. He said, look, I just don't want to talk about private conversations I had with the President of the United States in public. I'll tell you in private, but not in public. I mean, they were all emphatic. They said, we never felt pressure. Case closed, right?
Right.
Well, no, but the question was, did he ask you? And they would not answer that question. And that's what brought this whole thing out. And that allows a lot of people to feel as though there was something going on that we don't know about.
But
I think they have to have a better answer to that.
Really? Do
yes
all
or
those
no?
details have to really matter
That's
if they're
not a
saying
detail.
they never felt pressured?
That's true. But he says, I never felt pressure, but he did pull me aside. Yes or no, did he pull you aside? That's what they were asking. And even Marco Rubio was exasperated, and he even liked his friends with Dan Coates.
What's wrong with pulling them aside?
They won't answer. I don't know.
Because Corey Lewandowski said this is the way the president works. He's very hands-on.
But they wouldn't admit that the president pulled him aside behind closed doors and said, do me a favor, and put pressure on, or not put pressure, talk to Comey about exonerating
But
him.
even if they did pull him aside, and I guess the president did pull him aside, but they didn't feel pressure.
No,
No matter what they talked about, they didn't feel pressure.
But he did not answer the question. Did he or did he not pull you aside and ask you to do that?
What if he said, yes, he did pull me aside? What would that matter?
They chose not to.
They chose
not to answer that question.
Right, but even if they did say yes or no, would that change anything?
Well,
they didn't feel pressure.
The perception would be the president pulls aside the National Intelligence Director, the CIA Director, the NSA Director, and says, do me a favor, pressure somebody else in justice. That was what the Democrats and even some Republicans were getting at.
Let us know what you think. We're going to be talking about it all morning
and tomorrow
all
as
day.
well. All right, it is about 6:11 here in New York City, and Jillian joins us here on the mezzanine level with the news.
That's right. All I know is I don't want you questioning me ever. You're a very tough questioner. I could tell that. Good morning to you guys. To you at home as well. We do begin with a Fox News alert right now. A terror attack outside the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine. While you were sleeping, an attacker throwing an explosive device over the compound's fence in Kiev. No one hurt. The suspects not caught. We'll bring you more information as we get it. We just got our hands on dramatic new video that shows the terrorists in London stabbing a man and then police shooting them dead. This video that you are seeing, it is pretty graphic. The 3 terrorists seen stabbing an innocent man walking down the street. Within seconds, armed cops storm in and open fire, killing the extremists with a hail of bullets. 8 people killed, 48 others injured in the massacre. Security now taking center stage as voters in Britain head to the polls in the shadow of terror. Prime Minister Theresa May fighting a closer battle than expected against frontrunner Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn. Now, if Corbyn wins, British foreign policy could do a 180, changing its partnership with the U.S. in the fight against terrorism. Tensions nearing a boiling point with North Korea as the rogue nation launches 4 new test missiles. U.S. officials say these rockets do not pose a threat to Americans. The launch comes a day after South Korea's new president suspended the installment of a U.S. anti-missile system.
I think this is the new South Korean regime caving in to Chinese hegemony in the region and realizing that America is no longer the protector it was. This is a big shift.
This is North Korea's 4th missile test in a month, and it comes less than a week after the UN Security Council imposed new sanctions. Let's look at your headlines this morning, guys, so we'll keep you updated on these stories.
All right, Jillian, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Straight ahead on this Thursday, President Trump talking tough about Obamacare.
Obamacare is dead. Everybody knows it.
Do Americans agree that it's dead? We got brand new dials you're only going to see here coming up next with Lee Carter.
And dozens of alleged criminals about to be let loose because the system is unfair to the poor? Really? Seriously?
But first, a highlight from the CMT Awards. Here is Luke Bryan and Jason Derulo.
Jason Derulo. President Trump touting big new plans for infrastructure and healthcare, but how did his message resonate with the folks? Lee Carter is a president and pollster with Maslansky and Partners, and she just put the president to the dial test. Good morning and welcome to the living room.
Great to be here. It's amazing.
So the president yesterday was in Cincinnati. You poll tested this first soundbite. Here's the president talking about how Obamacare, folks, is dead.
Obamacare is in a total death spiral. And the problems will only get worse if Congress fails to act. Obamacare is dead. The House of Representatives has done its job. It sent a plan to the Senate, and the Senate is working it over because we're having no help. It's only obstruction from the Democrats. The Democrats are destroying health care in this country.
All right, Lee.
So you can see Republicans gave this an A+. They like that they were off the chart. Independents a C and Democrats an F. What I find most interesting about this is that the health care debate, independents have now are more favorable towards Obamacare, 20 points higher than they were when President took office.
Why is that?
Part of the reason is the Republicans haven't said what's in the plan, what's in it for the American people. And the Democrats have done a very good job messaging, if we lose this, 24 million people are going to lose the care. What the Republicans and President Trump have to do is convince the people what health care is going to do for them.
One of the other things that the president said yesterday was, look, we're a nation of builders. Let's build something. Watch.
It's time to recapture our legacy as a nation of builders and to create new lanes of travel, commerce, and discovery. And we're going to see all the way into the future. And the future is going to be beautiful, and the future is going to be bright.
Independents like that.
They sure did. You could see Republicans A-, Independents B+, and even Democrats gave this a C. These are the messages where Donald Trump signs. This is where he was elected on messages like this. America first. We're going to make America great again. This was a great message.
All right, here's another soundbite from the president yesterday in Cincinnati. Folks, let's get busy.
It's time that we finally start looking out for our interests in the United States. No longer will we sacrifice American jobs, factories, and wealth. The theft of American prosperity has come to a screeching halt, folks. And a new era of American greatness is about to begin, and you see it. It's already beginning.
Look at that.
So you can see there, A- with Republicans, B+ with Independents, C- even with Democrats. So what I took away from this whole testing of him is candidate Trump, the one that went to Ohio yesterday, which is exactly what he was like, not President Trump, is so popular. And even Democrats are willing to listen to him. And that's not something that's getting covered all the time. So he needs to be out with the people spreading his message.
I'm glad you put it that way. It's not getting covered that way. In fact, if you watch some of the other channels, you pretty much think they're back in a moving van up to the White House. He's going to have to leave town
Pretty
soon.
much,
Yeah. All right. Lee Carter, thank you very much. Really
Great to
good.
be here.
All right. Coming up on this Thursday, James Comey confirms President Trump is not under investigation 3 times. But that's not what you're going to hear from the mainstream media.
There's a lot of smoke, and there are a lot of alarm bells.
So what's the reality? We're going to debate it with Lisa Bloom and Adrienne Elrod coming up next. Stand by, ladies. You're next on Fox & Friends, live from New York City and Washington, D.C.
Are suing the psychologists who created the CIA's harsh interrogation techniques used in the war on terror. They want the doctors to provide information to Polish officials who are investigating a former CIA jail in that country. The lawsuit details what is described as the torture of Abu Zubaydah, a facilitator for al-Qaeda. And 2 senators want a major media festival moved out of Texas to protest the state's sanctuary cities ban. Democrats Bob Menendez and Catherine Cortez Masto, they don't even represent the Lone Star State. The new rules against immigrant sanctuaries goes into effect in September. The CEO of South by Southwest Festival says he has no plans to move. Brian?
All right, Ainsley, James Comey's advanced testimony backing the president's claims he was never under investigation, and he was told that. But the liberal media telling a whole different story in some respects.
We're hearing often from reports inside the White House that he just doesn't listen.
But I'm going to tell you this, there's a lot of smoke, and there are a lot of alarm bells.
And this is a code red situation for the Trump presidency, an emergency situation that's not going to go away, and therefore it's a code red situation for the country.
So I guess it's a code red situation to Dan Rather. I guess someone should hit him. I think he was stuck on something. So why the disconnect? Here to debate, former Director of Strategic Communications for Hillary Clinton, Adrienne Elrod, and the GOP strategist we like to call Lisa Booth, and a Fox News contributor. Adrienne, what do you take from the media coverage of what James Comey released yesterday?
Look, by no means is Donald Trump out of the woods yet. Mike Flynn, his former national security advisor, is still under investigation. Officials from his campaign are still under investigation. And Robert Mueller, special counsel Robert Mueller, is still very much looking into Donald Trump and what kind of collusion he may have had with Russia. So there's still a lot of unanswered questions, and I hope we'll get more of those answers today with Mr. Comey's testimony.
Right. But if what President Trump were ranked to me, Lisa, is that he wants to get stuff done. And he really feels as though inside Washington, you guys would know better, there's that cloud holding back his agenda. He said, release me and continue the investigation. Is that what you walked away with?
Well, yeah, and the former FBI director, James Comey, also stated in his written testimony both 3 times that the president himself is not under investigation, and also that this is a counterintelligence investigation as opposed to a criminal investigation. That being said, I don't think the president has helped himself. A lot of these conversations he probably just should have never had in the beginning, although even liberal law professors like Jonathan Turley have said that it does not amount to obstruction of justice. But I do think there's a danger here for the media as well as Democrats for really overplaying their hand. You look at the Harvard-Harris poll, and the majority of Americans believe that there is fake news out there. There was a BuzzFeed article not too long ago about Democrats on Background talking to this reporter about concerns that they are overplaying their hand regarding the Russia investigation. So I do think there's a danger for the Democratic Party to really overreach, particularly when you have Senator Dianne Feinstein, who has said that there's no evidence of collusion. Even someone like Representative Maxine Waters, who has pushed conspiracy theories before, saying on record that there's no evidence of collusion.
All right, Adrian, having said that, just to bring up the Jonathan Turley, the quote that stuck with me was, "We don't indict or impeach people for being boorish or clueless or simply being Donald Trump." So you're not in legal trouble, but Mr. President, that you shouldn't have been doing that. Adrian, what do you expect to hear today? If I was to give you an opportunity to ask a couple of questions after reading what Comey said.
Well, first of all, I would want to know what sort of pressure Mr. Comey felt that Donald Trump was giving him in all of the meetings that they had. You know, Donald Trump met with Mr. Comey 9 times. Several of those conversations were just one-on-one with Mr. Comey, which is something I would certainly not want to put myself in if I was the president of the United States. So what we want to know from Mr. Comey is what sort of pressure did he feel from the president? Did he feel any pressure tactics that made him feel that he had to do any sort of, that he had to do anything to influence the investigation in the president's favor?
And I can tell by your tone, you're like a lot of Democrats who say, I'm not too pleased with him either. And Lisa, real quick, what would you ask?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to get some clarity over his written testimony, and also I think it was the May 3rd testimony when he said that he had never felt politically pressured to not investigate or, felt political pressure in this investigation. So I'd like to get some clarity around those comments, and I'd also like to hear from him about some of the leaks that we've been seeing that have undermined our national security as well.
Right. Someone was seeing these memos and calling up the New York Times and Washington Post. Man, it's unbelievable. It's like the intelligence agencies on some level have turned on this White House. Adrian Elrod, thanks so much, and thanks so much to Lisa Booth. Great job, guys.
Thanks for having me.
All right, coming up straight ahead, Ainsley gets a behind-the-scenes look at the Vice President's office, and she brought a camera.
Every president since our second president has lived in that home.
How did you get from Indiana to now you're here?
His answer about his American dream will make you proud to be an American one day after his birthday. And remember that Texas Democrat who went on a hunger strike for 3 days to support illegals? Now she's in trouble with the law. But first, on a different note, happy birthday to First Lady Laura Bush. She's 92 years old today. And everyone, if you see her, give her a hug. I've never really screwed up a birthday before, but I screwed up a birthday.
Well, you almost got it right.
I said Laura Bush happy birthday. Sorry, former First Lady. I should have wished you a happy birthday November 4th. That's when you're born. I should have said Barbara Bush's birthday is today.
It's today, and she is 92.
That's
Laura
better.
Bush, her birthday November 4th, and she is 70.
Right. I will make one mistake a show, so I got that out of the way.
Okay. So
All right,
2.5
happy
hours.
birthday, Mrs. Barbara Bush.
Thank you. Meanwhile, last week, Ainsley got a sit-down with Vice President Mike Pence. Of course, I didn't believe her. Now she has proof because she says they discussed current events as well as what it means to be vice president. For example,
President Donald Trump is a man of his word. I mean, literally, he gets up every day and turns his face like flint against the wind and says, what are we going to do today to make America safe again, to make America prosperous again, to make America great again? And it's the greatest honor of my life to be Vice President to President Donald Trump.
So when you look at that, it looks like a different room. It doesn't look like anything we've seen in the White House because it's not in the White House. It's next door in the Eisenhower Executive Office, right next door to the White House.
Beautiful
and that's where
building.
the interview was.
Huge building. It's a French-style building if you've seen it next to the White House. The vice president was so kind to show me around what has been the vice president's ceremonial office since the 1960s. Take a look.
Mr. Vice President, tell us where we are.
This is the ceremonial office of the Vice President in the Executive Office building. I have an office here. I have an office in the West Wing, where I spent a considerable amount of time. But I also have an office in the Senate and an office off the House of Representatives.
So where do you do most of your work?
In between floors. Depends on where the work is every day.
This desk, very special, right?
It's one of 4 desks that spend time in the Oval Office, and it's a great distinction. But what's special about it, a tradition started many years ago of Vice President signing the inside of the desk, and so you have everyone from Harry Truman to Joe Biden to Al Gore to Dick Cheney, Walter Mondale.
Yes. Dick Cheney wrote it with a Sharpie, but look, Joe Biden, it's engraved, it's etched in there. Same with Dan Quayle's. When do you sign it? Could you sign it now, or do you wait to the end of the
I think the tradition is that you sign it at the end of your tenure, so I expect I'll be signing this drawer in 7.5 years.
Your son is a Marine. Here's the American flag. What is freedom? What is this flag? What is our country? What does it mean to you?
Well, I never fail to remember that whatever the challenges of being in public life, we all have the second hardest jobs. We're only able to serve here and because men and women at this very hour are wearing the uniform of the United States and defending our freedom and making it possible. I add to that list the brave men and women of law enforcement, our first responders across this country. And what I try and do every single day is live up to the courage and the standard that they demonstrate in their lives.
Wow. What a view. Washington Monument, the White House.
You know, it's amazing when you think about it that every president since our second president has lived in that home.
I know. It's a history. Presidents who are no longer with us walked these halls. It's unbelievable. How did you get from Indiana? Now you're here.
Well, that's America, isn't it? You know, I'm a small town kid. Grew up with a cornfield in my backyard. President John F. Kennedy was a hero of my youth, as was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I just got it in my head early on that maybe someday I can come to Washington, D.C. and serve like they did. I studied hard, I prayed hard, and here I say with great humility, here I stand, Vice President of the United States. It's to be the grandson of an immigrant. My grandfather grew up in Ireland and immigrated to this country when he was about my son's age. I was just reflecting this week on the inauguration. I couldn't help but think on that day, Grandpa was looking down from glory and thinking he was right. Not right about me. He was right about America. Because America is a place where anybody can be anybody, even a small town kid from southern Indiana who grew up with a dream.
The sacrifices a parent makes. His grandfather came here, didn't know a soul, came here from Ireland, and now his grandson is Vice President of the United States of America.
The American dream.
It is. Our First Lady speaks 5 languages. She wasn't even born here. It is amazing, this country.
That is awesome. And it's so cool to see that building on the inside because it is so much more, and the White House is fantastic, but that building is so ornate on the inside.
It's so beautiful.
Right, and I think like Dick Cheney, he's playing a major role with the administration. So I think when he's vice president, they used to not do much. Now they're doing a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
Good job.
Thank you.
Really interesting.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice President, for letting us come into your life.
22 minutes before the top of the hour, let's go upstairs, and Jillian's got the headline.
Hi. That's right. Good morning to you guys. Good morning to you at home as well. An armed robber is dead after sparking a police shootout in broad daylight. You can see the suspect firing at Baltimore cops who returned fire as bystanders run for cover. This all started when police say he robbed 2 people, then jumped on a public bus to try to get away. Police later pulling the bus over, the man immediately opening fire. A police officer and bystander were shot and are in critical condition. In yet another about face, the newly released leader of a terror group responsible for more than 100 deadly bombings across the U.S. will be honored at the Puerto Rican Day Parade. New York City Council Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito vowing Oscar Lopez Rivera will still be given the National Freedom Hero Award. He's already said he won't accept it. Rivera spent more than 35 years behind bars before President Obama commuted his sentence. Prisoners enjoying a get-out-of-jail-free card in Houston after the court rules their bail system is unfair to the poor. The U.S. Supreme Court ruling already allowed dozens of inmates to walk free, and the county jail is expected to release another 100 inmates this week. County officials plan to appeal the ruling next month. And remember the Texas Democrat who starved herself to protest a sanctuary cities ban? Well, guess what? She just got busted for DUI. House Representative Victoria Niave posting an apology online. Take a look.
I disappointed my family, my constituents, my supporters. I disappointed myself. I'm deeply sorry.
A Dallas police officer arresting the lawmaker after she crashed her BMW into a tree. The cop says she was uncooperative but told him, quote, "I love you and I will fight for you." Let's look at your headlines on this Thursday. Send it back to you guys.
I'm not going to cooperate, but I love you. Right. All right. Thank you very much, Jillian.
All right, thanks, Jillian. Meanwhile, it's one of the campaign promises that got him elected. President Trump's new plan to build the wall. That's even got Democrats. This is a plan that will even have Democrats. Well, they're going to have a hard time refusing his idea.
And the president meeting face-to-face with families losing their health care insurance because of Obamacare. So how can Republicans finally pass a health care plan that works for every American? Brian Brenberg, who is a professor and a guest on our show and is walking towards us, he has an idea. We're going to talk to him coming up. Hey, Brian, how are you?
Morning, Professor. Poor working man. I got it all on the line for a piece of the promised land.
All right, President Trump meeting with families facing what he calls the catastrophic effects of Obamacare in Ohio and blaming Democrats for the fallout.
Ray and Dan are just 2 of the many victims of the Obamacare catastrophe created by congressional Democrats. Across America, premiums are skyrocketing, insurers are fleeing, and the American people are paying much more for much worse coverage. And the problems will only get worse if Congress fails to act. The Democrats are destroying health care in this country.
So what will it take for Congress to come together and pass real change in health care for all of these families and the millions of others that are facing the same fate?
Especially because they're in the middle of this turbulence. Let's ask Brian Brenberg. He's the chair of the program in business and finance at King's College in New York City. You know the situation. It's now in the Senate's lap. They're not happy with the Republicans' plan that they gave them. So politically, what has to happen to affect America's families?
Well, look, House Republicans and Senate Republicans have to come together. It doesn't work anymore to blame Democrats. It's true, Obamacare was passed by Democrats, but voters are saying, Republicans, you came into office promising to fix this. You have the power to do this. You need to agree on a fix. It's going to be tough because there are a lot of contentious issues. Medicaid is a contentious issue, but Republicans have to find a way to work together. They have to tell their story about innovation, about expanded possibilities, and about lower costs. They haven't done that right now. They're just infighting, and that's the problem that voters are seeing. That's why they're losing some trust in Republicans
There's
right now.
so much infighting, so much talk about Russia. We have the FBI investigations, all of this going on when people in middle America who are losing their health care, that's what they really care about.
And that's why it's so important for the president to be out in Ohio, in places where insurers are dropping out of the market and saying, this is a flesh and blood issue. This affects real people. Here they are. We're talking about tens of thousands. Republicans, you have to come together. You have to find a way to put this together. And we've got a plan out there. Maybe it needs tweaks, but we've got a plan out there.
Well, Brian, here's the deal. I hear they might have a shot at ramming it through the Republican Senate, and they're going to just redo the whole thing in conference. Do you think that the word is they can get that done by the end of July?
I don't think they can get it done by the end of July. I mean, it would, to me, given where they are right now. Yeah, right now, I think maybe with the Senate, with conference, I think that's going to be very hard to do. They're far apart on this. Now, if the president is out there and he's making this pitch and people are saying we want change.
But it's just a negative pitch. All it is what's wrong with Obamacare. He didn't talk about what this new plan will be because it doesn't have it.
But he is putting pressure on Republicans. He's pointing to the fact that there are problems out there, and he's saying, Republicans, you're going to pay a price next year if you don't get something done. Voters aren't going to give you a pass. This is your job now. So I think that is helpful. But Republicans have to, the Senate Republicans, the House Republicans have to make the positive case here. They have to let people know we want to get a more innovative system, a system that's going to provide choice and lower costs. They've got to do that more effectively.
Do you think that he should just let Obamacare die on its own?
No.
Yesterday we heard from, I think it was Corey Lewandowski that we interviewed yesterday, who was saying, no, I agree with you that we shouldn't let it die because we care about the people.
Exactly. And again, voters they didn't put Republicans in office to let this thing die. They put them in office to fix it before it does. They will pay the price in 2018 if that happens.
And real quick, you're a finance guy. You know the CBO is going to look at this. Since there's no mandate to make people buy insurance, of course, less people are going to be covered. It's whatever the Senate puts out, the CBO is going to make it look bad.
Look, the CBO has been massively wrong before. And this is not a knock on them. It's just very hard. Well, I'm not trying to make it a knock on them. I'm just saying it's very hard to model this. And the CBO can't bake in the benefits of innovation when you open up a market. They don't have a way to model that. So Republicans have to say that's not the end of the story, the CBO analysis. Let me tell you how we're going to create choice that fits your needs. You're right, they have to sell that. The president is out there. He's on the trail making the case. Now Senate Republicans have to do the same thing.
All right. Thank you, Brian.
You bet.
I'm between two Brians.
How lucky
girl.
are you?
I know. Thank you.
By the way, it came up earlier, never dated a Brian. Former FBI Director James Comey, hours away from testifying on Capitol Hill. So what should we all be looking for? Judge Andrew Napolitano has not slept in 4 weeks. He's coming here at the top of the hour.
And the CMT Awards bringing a new look into the spotlight. The Rompim, Carly Shimkus, is here with what's trending.
That's a onesie for men, right? Nice to see you.
What's up, Nashville, Tennessee? How we feeling? Woo! Welcome to the FGL house. Let's go.
All right, some of the trends on Friends today. The biggest stars in country music descending on Nashville for one of their biggest nights of the year. There it is.
Here with what's trending from the CMT Awards last night is Fox News Headlines 24/7 reporter Carly Shimkus. Hey, Carly.
Hello. So the night kicked off with a really, really powerful start with a tribute to the late Greg Allman, who passed away in late May. Let's just jump right into it and get a little bit of that sound.
Excellent.
Amazing, amazing start to the show. That was Jason Aldean, Darius Rucker, Lady Antebellum's Charles Kelly. Of course, they performed Midnight Rider in his honor. You know, the Allman Brothers were really known as a rock band, but they influenced so many people. Yeah, you're absolutely right. In the current country music scene, including Jason Aldean, who posted a really touching tribute to him after he passed away on May 27th.
Of course, his brother died earlier, too. Now, they always have fun on the CMTs. They had fun yesterday.
They sure did. And we can't talk about an award show without talking about fashion. And the boldest fashion statement came from host Charles Esten, who rocked a Rompim. Are we looking at that Rompim right now?
Romper.
So it's a male romper. I'm going to say something kind of controversial.
It's like a short jumpsuit.
I don't think he looks that bad.
Really?
I think I could get down with this. If it was a little looser, yeah, maybe it would be a little bit more masculine. So a lot of people are tweeting about this.
So if you were single and a guy showed up in a romper, would you say there's going to be a second date?
It depends on where we are. Are we at the beach? Maybe. If we're, walking around in Manhattan, maybe not.
Where else would it
But I'm not the only one that likes it. Kayla on Twitter says Charles Esten looked good in that romper. See, I told you. She says, y'all, I don't even care. I love Deacon from Nashville. But Rose says, dear Lord, Charles Esten, please don't ever do that again. Ainsley, what do you think?
You know what? Because it's black, it looks like he's wearing a black shirt.
Or maybe it's like long johns or something. Yeah.
But, right.
Yeah. All right. Well, of course, there were some winners of the night that we have to get to. Keith Urban, he walked away with the top honor, winning Video of the Year for A Blue Ain't Your Color. Carrie Underwood made history. She has now won the most CMT awards with 17.
Whoa.
And, you know, my favorite moment of the night was when Lauren Elena won Breakthrough Video. She was so emotional. She, you know, felt this was such a special moment, as it was. She thanked everybody under the sun, and then God.
Stunned, right?
Yeah, and then after she thanked everybody, and then, you know, God last, she said, "I'm so sorry, God. I should have thanked you first."
Well, let's see
it
if
was a really
she's-
cute, special moment.
Let's see if she's that emotional when she comes to Fox and Friends about a month from now.
Exactly, July 7th. So must-see TV next month.
Fantastic.
All right,
They
do you
do
like
seem
the
like a
romper?
cool bunch.
They really do. I'm excited for her performance.
All right, and you know what? I'm going to get you tickets. You're going to have very
really?
good seats.
Front row?
We got your vote.
I'm
We got
holding
your
you
vote.
to
What's
that.
your vote
The
on
romp him?
romp him?
Not a fan
Not a
yet.
fan.
Gonna have to grow on me.
Unless I had Jim
Carly?
in the 70s.
Email us pictures of you if you are in a romp.
Yeah.
Romp him.
Send us what you wear.
I don't want to see any pictures. Sometimes people send weird stuff.
You're in a onesie, tell us.
All right, Carly, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
All right, coming up, an act of kindness. A young woman helping a blind man catch a cab when she thought that no one was looking. Stick around for that good news next.
Plus, former FBI Director James Comey, hours away from testifying on Capitol Hill. So what should we be looking for? Judge Andrew Napolitano
All right.
has an idea. Hey, Judge.
Hey.
I would...